the thing. You're going to like this, because this is what you're reaching for, and as you hear it, and you will, a whole lot of things are going to start clicking into place fast for you, because you've done the work, you've sifted through the data, your vortex is ripe, it's ready to pop for you on all these fronts. You can feel that. But here's the distinction that we want you to hear. And this is the thing about deliberate creation. For a while, we called these gatherings the science of deliberate creation. Science meaning creation is always evolving and changing, like science must. And deliberate meaning you want to be purposeful about what you think. But after a while, we gravitated toward calling it the art of allowing instead, because people got too heady in the thoughts that they were thinking about being deliberate. And so this is the distinction that we want you to hear. Feel the difference between focusing on a subject like a specific job and the things that you will do, or a specific relationship and what that person might be like. Feel the difference between the details of the manifestations that you can see and hear and smell and taste and touch, and the details of the manifestation that you're feeling with your emotions. Because as a human, you're oriented toward seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching. So most of you, when you are making your lists of what you want, you're kind of heavy on that part of it, how you want it to look, how you want it to be. But when you tweak it just a little bit, where you start emphasizing the feeling of it, in other words, the difference between, I want to create $100,000 this year, or $200,000 this year, or $500,000 this year, pick a number, it doesn't matter. I want to create X number of dollars this year. That's using your mind in a specific, deliberate way, and saying, I want to feel my utter freedom to be and do and have whatever I choose. And so what you're wanting to do is amplify the emotional things that you're looking for, the freedom and the clarity and the collaborative nature, the harmonics of the workplace, the bigness of it, the expansiveness of it. And as you're thinking in those more vibrational terms rather than in those specific see it, hear it, smell it, taste it, touch it terms, something will shift within you. You'll feel it right away. When you start calibrating to the feeling of security, meaning stable no matter what, calibrating your emotion to things always work out for me, as you calibrate like that, then more and more evidence of that, even right where you stand in the current working environment that you're standing, things start shifting like that. You begin to notice it right away. We are happy that you were with us on that. And so let's go back and just define that in a strong way. Everything that you're approaching, you can approach it as a subject. In other words, there's a subject of politics, and there's a subject of medicine, and there's a subject of parenting, and there's a subject of schools. We could keep this sentence going for days and days and days, just talking about subjects. But then there's the emotional stance of well-being. There's the emotional stance of freedom. There's the emotional stance of awesomeness and eagerness and friendliness even. Can you feel the difference? When you start reaching for the way, what you want and why you want it, so why you want it. There isn't anything that anybody wants, whether it's a pile of money or a new relationship or a different job or an empire. There isn't anything that anybody wants, ever has or ever will, that is for any other reason than that they believe they will feel better when they're there. So if you start focusing on how you want to feel until you're feeling that way, because you're focusing on feeling that way, things just begin lining up. And the thing that's so great about that is that you never get it done. Can't get it wrong. Reason you can't get it wrong is because it's never done. It'll just keep morphing into something else. So when you catch this emotional point of attraction spirit of things, then what happens? You're happy now, and you're happy now, and you're happy now. It's not like I've got that goal of that job, and on my way to it, I'm feeling pretty frisky, and then I've got it, yay, but now I've got it, yay, and now I've still got it, yay, and I've still got it, yay. Where if you're focused upon expansion and freedom, then nothing ever stalls out. And this is really the biggest point that we're making in all of that. You heard it clearly, but we're going to make it again. Just imagine, just feel with us. All that your vortex was, your vortex is that vibrational reality that we're talking about. It's what's out ahead of you, just pre-manifestation. It's all the things that you've aspired to that now, as your doubt subsides, will start flowing into your experience. So it works like this. There's this vortex of all that you've asked for. And your inner being, in essence, stands in the midst of all of that, not just knowing it, but being it, knowing it, being it. And the law of attraction, gathering all of the cooperative components. So these cooperative components are all gathered, and it's there to unfold for you, not to just drop splat in your life. That wouldn't be any fun. To unfold in your life in this continuous, never-ending, long stream of lovely experiences. So here it all is, and it's ready for you. Are you ready for it? So you decide you're going to meditate because you are going to be ready for it. So every day you meditate, you quiet your mind. Esther likes to listen to the air conditioner or the sound. If she's in a room where there's no sound, she has an app that says central air. You want to focus on something that you have no thought about, like Esther never thinks, I've heard better. There's no negative thought about that. And sometimes she'll focus and then her mind will wander, and then she'll bring herself back and her mind will wander. Sometimes it takes a little bit to really quiet her mind, but once you quiet your mind, your vibration rises because there's no resistance holding it down. And once you reach the vibrational equivalent of your inner being, who has no resistance, now what's in that vortex and what your inner being knows about that vortex can be received by you. It just sort of wafts into your experience. It's where ideas come from, and inventions and impulses. So the more you're doing that, then the more you're finding those impulses flowing into your experience. And as those ideas and impulses flow into your experiences, and now you're making the clear association between what you already know was in the vortex and having quieted your mind. And now when this thought comes and you follow that impulse and there's a payoff for it, now you've got it. Now you understand how it all works. Because your inner being knows where you stand in terms of manifestation in relationship to everything that's in your vortex. And here are the key words. And your inner being knows your path of least resistance. Your path. What do we mean by that? Your inner being knows where all your resistant thoughts are. And your inner being, in your tuned in, tapped in, turned on state of being, will guide you around and over and under all of those resistant thoughts right to what you want. It's like Esther lost her gold pen. She couldn't find it anywhere. She looked and looked and looked. She dumped every purse out. She looked and looked and looked and looked. Finally, she gave up. Then 2 or 3 months later, she was looking for something else in one of her handbags, a little bottle of perfume, and she reached in the bag where she knew it was and came out with a gold pen. She could not find what was lost. Your inner being knows what you think is lost. And in your state of alignment, your inner being will guide you through the path of least resistance right to where you want to be. And oh, what fun it is along the way. Whew. When you are in a state of non-resistance, you feel good. A feeling of satisfaction is really a nice feeling. A feeling of eagerness is a really nice feeling too. It's a different feeling. A feeling of passion, that off-the-wall enthusiasm, that's a nice feeling too. But you're not wanting to go 100 miles an hour all the time. In fact, sometimes it's nice to be able to mold your speed, to mold your energy, because let's say you're going really fast and then you come across a resistant thought about the subject. A car that's going 100 miles an hour and hits a tree doesn't feel so good. A car that's going 5 miles an hour and hits a tree is not such a big thing. So your process is to figure things out, because, you know, we really want you to hear this. There is always, 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 always going to be something in your life experience that causes you to ask for more. So there is always going to be a gap between what you've just asked for and your readiness for it. We want you to manage that gap by acknowledging, first of all, it's supposed to be there. Next of all, that nothing's going wrong. Next of all, that things are always working out, so that you can stand in that pleasurable place of enjoying watching things fall into place. You forget that you are creators, and that's the way life is with you. You have a new experience which gives you a new request, and that new request now has given your vortex a new segment. The new request that you just threw in affected everything else that was already there, and now everything is finding cooperation with everything else. Do you see what we're getting at? It's just a constant state of evolution and becoming. And so you don't need to be eager to get somewhere. What we want you to be is satisfied where you are. Because if you will focus on being satisfied with what is, the eagerness for more will come naturally. It will come so easily, and you won't have those highs and lows, that roller coaster life that so many people have when they want something and then they get it and then they go into depression because they're not ready for the next and the next. Does that make sense to you? This is why we were emphasizing earlier. You want it for the feeling of it. And once you calibrate to that feeling of why you want it, now there's just another and another and another. That's the distinction, that when you're looking for a specific goal, you want it, you're looking forward to this trip, you plan for it, you go on the trip, and now it's over and now you're in a funk. That's the difference between what we were talking about the subject being the trip and the subject being the happily ever after life that I'm living. Because you're always on a trip. You're always around a lot of people. There is always so much potential for collaboration and consideration and rendezvousing. You see what we're getting at? So that will sort of steady that, because if you have those feelings of exhilaration and then that feeling of being bored, that's not that steady state of allowing that we're talking about. And it also indicates that there's a little bit of conditional response. In other words, the trip or whatever it is you created was your reason for happiness, and now you need something else to replace it. Where if you let your intention be to focus upon finding that feeling and not needing the condition to support it. Most people live a very conditional love. They don't love just because it's natural to love. They love because there's somebody to love and somebody that's loving them back. And it feels good when somebody holds you as their object of attention and they're loving you. Oh, it feels so good. But now you need their undivided attention. They better not go have dinner somewhere or go to work. You need their undivided attention because they are the reason that you feel the way you do. That's not what you're looking for. You're wanting to connect with who you are so that where you are looking feels good to you all the time. And then there isn't the high and the low and the high and the low. It's just that steady feeling of well-being that is constantly expressing itself in another way and in another way and in another way. Esther was texting a friend as she was waiting at the airport in San Diego. And her friend said, "Where are you going?" And Esther said, "Dallas." And then she wrote, "Yee-haw." Just for fun. She's never done that in her life. She doesn't even know what came over her. It's not something that she has ever said. It just happened. So now it was a direct flight, and the plane landed, and a very funny flight attendant who was making the majority of the announcement said, "Welcome to Dallas. Welcome to Love Field." And the passenger across the way said, "Yee-haw." And Esther thought, all right, this is the universe playing with me. It's like they know in advance that that guy's going to do that. So they set me up for that. They set me up for that. And it was way funny. Everyone laughed, but especially Esther. She really, really liked that. Now, you may not find that very significant, but when you're in on the setup and then the universe delivers, you feel really, really cared for.